Welcome to Nonprofit Network, powered by Stokes Auction Group. We are a podcast focused on benefit auctions and fundraising events for the nonprofit community. We are a group of fundraising professionals that specialize in raising funds to improve communities of all sizes. And here it is, episode number 14. My name is Shelby, and on the cast today we have Kelly Shinfield.
That's me, Kelly Sheffield.
And Paul Shinfield.
That's me. Good to see you guys again. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, we took a week off. Kelly was on vacation.
Okay, so we're going to be honest with
vacation.
you. I'm going to tell you about my vacation. Oh my God, it was so restful.
Oh, was it?
Yes. I slept for, 4 days.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
Ladies and gentlemen, I got the vid.
The vid.
Dun dun, I did. I got the vid, and it kicketh my booty, and I'm vaccinated, and I'm boosted, and I'm going to get my second booster, but whatever. I got it.
Well, not vaccinated enough, apparently, because you just got the vid. So, I mean, you had it. It was pretty tough. It sounded like
it's really not
down.
very much fun. I was down hard. So, still be careful out there. I know we're moving forward with our events and stuff, and I don't think we should be afraid of it. I'm not. I did my 5 days, like they say, and
I spent my time.
Did
my time. But no, we've seen a lot of our friends in our very close, tight social circles get exposed and come down with it recently, and it's been pretty tough for a lot of our team. People are out because of it, testing positive. There's probably 4 or 5 people in our social circles that came down with it recently, and we really didn't have many people
prior to that
were coming down to it with it prior.
And actually, some of the events that we've been doing, they've been having cancellations. Yeah. I'm sure you've seen that at yours too, but it's crazy in that the meeting day of, we're meeting with people and boom, their phone is just ringing and text and ding, ding, ding. And it's just cancellation after cancellation. And so just be okay with it. You're going to have a drop off and don't let it stop you. I didn't let it stop me and I got it bad. So I really did. It kicked my butt. But you know what? You got to push through it. And I was lucky in that, no really adverse side effects, except for I have a third eye now in the back of my head, and I just covered it with
minor detail.
See the future now? Is that how it works?
The past behind me.
It's
just keep looking at the past.
Never good. Side effect.
But anyway, my point is keep moving forward. It's a crazy thing, and you do everything you can not to get it. And you be as responsible as you can, and doing your events, still be just as responsible as you can, but understand you're probably going to have some drop off, and that's okay. You know what? Move forward.
Move forward.
Keep moving.
Come on, it's just a little bit of the vid. Come on, we can get through this.
Yeah.
But I mean, we like Kelly mentioned, we've seen it on our teams. We've seen it on different teams throughout the event space. Yeah. We're seeing chairs come down with it at times, and we just adjust accordingly. Like swap a speaker in and out, or have tables that are confirmed to other people. So there is a way through. But I also want to give a shout out to those caterers.
Oh,
right?
Please.
Because it's national.
Is National Catering Day.
That's right.
Is it really?
Yeah, it is today.
Why didn't you guys tell me that?
Surprise!
We just found out ourselves.
Wow. No, huge shout out to all those guys that are working these events. These guys and gals are working their butt off. They're getting yelled at. They've got frustrated people all around them.
Completely masked up most of the time, too.
Always masked up that I've seen. And doing their absolute best to make it a great night. So if you get a chance and you are at an event, thank them. They deserve it. They need it. They're wonderful. Without them, you're not eating dinner.
Yeah, in fact, I snapped a picture of our catering team because I was just blown away with them a couple weeks ago. Maybe we'll put this picture up on the screen. But these 2 individuals went above and beyond.
Yeah.
And the party did not stop, and they were still there helping people out, making sure that everyone had an enjoyable night. And honestly, that is really the epicenter of what makes these nights succeed, are the unspoken individuals that come in and get it done.
I agree.
The show can't go on without them.
No.
I mean, literally.
No. Yeah.
I mean, you can find a way, I guess. You could get Jimmy John's sandwiches, but,
Right, that would be tough, though.
What you mentioned earlier is that these people take a lot of the heat,
They do. They take a lot of the heat.
They take a lot of heat, and they need to be recognized and very, very well appreciated. And, so let's just
shout out to them. But today...
Definitely. Well, 2 weeks ago, we went over games.
Okay.
We went over games.
Shelby's the boss.
Let's go back and just
him.
shout out to games. So we discussed wine toss, raffle wheels, and the marshmallow guns, where Kelly shot Paul in the face at the end of that episode last time.
Awesome.
I was trying to roll through it, but all of the laughter came from you shooting him in the face.
Money.
It was the best slider I've ever seen from a marshmallow gun.
Amazing.
So,
money.
We slowed it down. Maybe we'll release that at some point. But pretty funny. Right in the face. So if you want us to cover more games, feel free to drop us a line on what games you want covered. But let's talk a little bit about this last week. I know that all three of us had shows. Kind of our last big push before we hit Memorial Day. Thank the stars! Memorial Day is almost here. It has been a very fun spring, but I tell you what, I'm a little tired.
Yeah.
I'm a little tired.
You just need to get the vid. It'll force you to sleep for 4 days.
Do you want to talk a little bit about your event?
We did a great night. It was a lot of fun, and it's an organization, Auburn Valley Humane Society. They're just loving, caring people. I'm going to talk to you about my favorite guest.
Okay.
Finn.
3-legged
dog. He was amazing.
I love that name.
I do too.
3-legged dog.
Finn.
Not responder lucky.
Oh, he was just But what a neat organization that is. That's one thing. Through this whole weird pandemic thing, people have really glommed onto their pets more than ever and gotten more pets than ever.
Right.
But now life is resuming, and so now people are getting rid of more pets than ever. So it's just kind of a bummer that the pets are this weird little pebble that's in this constant shell game of the human,
True.
And those people at that event really did a great job. They probably, there's some things like every organization that they could do differently to generate funds. But, again, we're gonna be having communication with them about that. And so there's always room for improvement and growth, and always room for a pat on the back and a job well done by that organization. They did a great job. So, yeah.
I love the animal organization.
I do
They're
too,
so
man.
needed, and you bring up a good point, especially now.
Yeah, it's kind of tough, but so that was what we did.
That's good.
And I was out of my positive testing phase. So
That's good.
I could
That's
go.
good. You did it. You tested negative, so you were good to go.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. We appreciate you hopping in. So perfect.
Well,
Paul,
I'm here as a team player.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. And that was
my job.
Just test negative. That's all we care.
Just test negative.
Wow, look at you, just doing it all, huh? What don't you do?
Nothing.
Because you were MC.
I was MC.
You were MC. You were a bid spotter. You also caused a bit of ruckus. It sounded like. Somehow you bid on a a few items. It sounded like.
We bought golf.
You bought
but
a
it was
golf
worth
package.
It. Yeah.
Somehow
that happened.
Somehow.
I don't know.
Out of nowhere.
So maybe there was a vid fog, and I'm like, I want that.
And now you're going to learn how to golf.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
What about you, Paul? How was your weekend?
That was great. I did a Catholic school. I've been saying that a lot on this podcast.
Yeah.
I did a Catholic school.
Start calling you Father Paul.
Yeah. And it was, you and I talked, we've been talking about, people's desire to get together and be social. And we've been suggesting kind of loosen up on your timeline. Don't worry about it so much. And boy, this all came to pass for me.
It was a loose timeline.
It was, and it was. You could just feel that people were just bottled up, ready to get together with their friends and party because it was a party.
That's cool.
There was a lot of alcohol flowing, and there was a lot of bid cards in the air, and they had a record night, and it was super fun. And we rolled with the punches, and I'm
going to interrupt you on that and say that I appreciate that about our team, all of our team members. Mm-hmm. You guys, shout out to the auctioneers on this one that we do roll with the flow.
Yeah.
And that's really important to be able to do that, Paul. So good job.
It
anyway,
absolutely
sorry,
is.
But it's key.
it's an integral part to keeping everything going. It's like, okay, well, just give them time and let them party and let them do the thing. Let's throw curveballs at us, and here's an added item. And I had an added item that was thrown in, like, I don't know, after item 8, I think, and it was a crab feed. $6,000.
Whoa.
Yeah.
For
Thrown
crab?
in. Yeah. Crab feed for 20 people at Bill and Susie's house. And
Wow. I'm like, good crab.
They handed me a little piece of paper that generated $6,000.
Wow.
So
that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, it just goes to show that you just take and ride that wave and use that energy to your advantage.
Absolutely.
If you're the talent or the entertainers or whatever.
Right.
And it was all over successful.
And in regards to like rolling with the punches, we definitely did that. I was at the Catering Foundation this last weekend in Seattle, and they had a very good fundraising event. They seemed to surpass their goal in their direct ask, which was very nice to see. I would say that we had some issues with timeline. Regretfully, our production team did not gain access to the ballroom until 2 p.m. in the afternoon, which meant it was a very tight flip for them.
Sure.
You know, they had 3-4 hours to set up a stage, speakers, hang, lighting from the trussing. It was
Video
a very
screen.
tight, a very tight turn. So when I got there around 4 o'clock, you could tell that everyone was a little bit on edge, right? Because everything was coming together in such a rapid fashion. I got to give props to that team. Like, they were able to pull it off as the ballroom doors were opening. They were putting final touches on everything, and it all came to pass very successfully. One thing that we did try at this event is we did the hybrid type event. In other words, we sold in-person live auction items and then had 2 of those items offered to the hybrid guest. In other words, you could log in and bid via a software device.
On only 2 of the items?
On 2 of the items, and also during the ask.
Okay.
So essentially what we did, and where I think we misstepped, is we had set up a timeline to where we would get through a certain amount of items prior to going to the ask, which is when the live stream would come in, do 2 items, then the live stream would fall away and we continue with the live. So what ended up happening is we tried to figure out the best way to do that timeline, but the speakers in the front of the night ended up pushing us back about 10-15 minutes. So by the time we got to those first handful of live items, our expectation was to get through 20 or 12 items in 20 minutes. So, which is darn near impossible, especially when you go out to sell the first item, and these people have been bidding on items for 2+ years in person, right? So you got to warm them up to the process. So I think one thing that we could have done better at in planning would be setting up that timeline to effectively allow the breathing room of that live auction, rather than saying, "Hey, we're going to get through 12 items, and then we're going to shift everything to cater to this virtual audience." And then at the end of the day, the ROI in the virtual audience wasn't there.
Yeah.
So it was almost as if we kind of psyched ourselves out. We overplanned it and didn't let that event breathe to the extent that it could have.
Right. And the timeline was probably a larger issue because you had a virtual audience at some point.
Yes.
So if you didn't have that
right.
virtual audience, which I know that we're trying to encourage people to get away from, in that, go live all the way. Go live and then do something else.
Well, and it's been a test bed, right? I know that individuals that move forward with the hybrid event, I've always said, yeah, I hope it works. Like, I really do. But time and time again, when we see it go to this hybrid scenario, the proof is not in the pudding. Like the ROI does not come back on getting the remote guests a live feed. I wish it was different. We are fully invested in the virtual space. Trust me, right? If anyone wants us to work, it's this team right here. But regretfully, it didn't seem to pass. But all that said, wonderful team, wonderful event. They far surpassed their goals, and I'm very excited for them. They're going to
basically, you didn't
in the future.
Putting those 2 items and even the Fund a Need on virtual platform, let people bid from home, didn't reach the expectations they thought that people would support at home as much as they would in the ballroom, and they just didn't.
Yeah, there just wasn't the interactivity that we thought there would. Right, there would be. Right, so we went to the ask portion of the night. Fund a Need, cash donations basically are coming in. We go through the room, start going through levels, and I keep checking the software to see bids come in, and I have 6 in the beginning, and by the end I had 7. And of those 7 donations, the majority of them were given prior to that night even beginning, right? So they were given during the silent a week ago or 3 days ago, or whatever the case may be. So a lot of those donations that were represented there had already gone in prior to the show even happening, right? I think we got one that happened live. So we went to those items, and it was a great night. I'd be starting items at $1,000 and go up from there. And I had one starter bid remotely at $1,000, and then once I surpassed that, it was over, right? And you're trying to do your best to cater to that remote audience. Hey, thank you out there for being a part of it. Trying to talk it up to the best of our ability. Regretfully, we did not see the traction. Now, it's very possible somebody came in afterwards and said, "I watched the show, love it. Here's a check for $20,000 or whatever." Very well could have happened.
Yeah.
But from where I sat, in regard to the live execution of the event, it did not seem to be as fruitful as anyone would have hoped. Not to mention the stress, and not stress, but the thought that goes into, okay, how are we going to schedule this event?
It's stress. Stress is the right word.
It is stress, because you talk about it 16 different times. Okay, we'll put it here. No, we'll put it here. Which items are we going to put there? Okay, you think and think and think about it. At the end of the day, it's an exercise for naught.
It didn't matter.
Regretfully. Yeah.
Dang it.
So, again, shout outs to that team. You guys are amazing. I know that it was a stressful added stress with the virtual event, but I thought it was well executed, and I'm sorry you didn't see the results that we would have hoped for. But we went a little long on reviewing last week. Thanks for listening to us. We're covering our topic this week, which is
volunteers.
There it is, right there. Volunteers.
We'd like to volunteer. That's right. We are covering the volunteers. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the essential of the volunteer, right? Many of these events were started with volunteers in mind. Hey, we're just going to raise money. Let's come in and forge this new path into raising money for this nonprofit. So a lot of the volunteers that we're seeing that dedicate themselves to this event can really apply in many different ways. So in the course of today, what we're going to do is we're going to cover what volunteers do, so job descriptions on each one of them, how to get them committed prior to the show, what to do once they're on site, and then how to maintain that relationship following the event. So
I'm going to start. Yeah,
essential.
Yeah,
right?
They're very essential. But I want to start by saying, knowing going into this whole volunteer thing, and then you guys can end it with this same thing. We got to remember that the volunteers are an absolute priority.
Agreed.
when you are grabbing them. So, you have to make sure that you're treating them as if that you need them, and you're conveying that to them, that you need them tonight. Hey, Bill, it's Susie. We're getting ready to do our event. We really need your help this year, and really let them understand at the beginning how much they're needed, so that at the end of the event, and they get these huge thank yous, they feel like they were a real part of something. And I think that is a miss. I think we miss that. I think that we just consider our volunteers that people are just coming because they got nothing else to do, or a friend of a friend or whatever. But I think we have to be really careful, and I think we have to be very pointed with our volunteers and show them that it's because of them that we're able to run this as smoothly as we are.
Yeah, and I think, where did this idea come from for us to do a cast? It came because we had organizations that would always lean on their volunteers to show up. Mm-hmm. They come into this world following the pandemic and say, okay, our volunteers will handle that. And all of a sudden, those volunteers that they've leaned on are not there. Mm-hmm. So to your point that you just made, maybe they were appreciated, but they didn't feel appreciated to the point of coming back 3 years later.
Yeah.
Or they thought, they'll be able to figure it out without us. And that has not seemed to be the case. We are either missing volunteers altogether, like they just don't show up, or in some weird scenarios, there's almost too many volunteers.
Right.
And then they feel unappreciated because there's too many of them. Right?
And there's nothing for the extras to do. And truly, you have to understand that the reason that they're saying yes to you is because they either believe in the event, they're married to somebody that's running the event, their child is a part of the event, or their family member, or their best friend, or something along that line. So I think it's really important to remember when procuring your volunteers up front, tell them how much they're needed, because it's the truth. Instead of making it a willy-nilly, hey, you want to volunteer? I need you to volunteer. And that's right.
And keep in mind, when you're asking for someone to volunteer their time, it's as valuable as money. right? I mean, they are basically saying, hey, I'm going to take 8 hours of my day and I'm going to be there for you or for the organization. That means they're essentially making a donation of their time. So if you're going to call somebody and ask them for $5,000, you need to have that same mindset asking a volunteer to come and show up.
Agreed.
Because their time is valuable. And if you give them the air or they get the feeling that their time is not valuable to you, they're not going to come. They're not going to show up.
No.
Gosh, and you know what? It's easy to take this group for granted.
Super easy.
Very much so.
It really is. I mean, and we're really seeing that now based on what we're coming out of in this spring. We're back hopping again. And like you mentioned, some people just either they're sick or they're not committed to show up, so they don't show up. But you know what? This goes even deeper than that. It's like they're so easy to take advantage of. We need to show them our appreciation.
Agreed.
You know, and if things are different now, I mean, back in the day, you could feed them pizza and they'd be happy. Maybe you got to go to the next level. Maybe you got to give some other incentives.
Got to at least feed them, though.
Definitely got to feed them.
I mean, come on.
And that is something that we talked about earlier. We're seeing a lot of these events that don't even have volunteer food. And that's
a no-no.
Great. Yeah.
If you're building your event, that's a big no-no. We don't say no very often, but no.
Yeah.
You got to feed these people.
Yeah. Agreed.
Keep them hydrated and things like that. But what are some of the things that volunteers do, you guys?
Yeah, so let's hop into the jobs of the volunteers. So what we're going to do is we're kind of going to run through a list. We got about 8 to 10 of these job descriptions or outlines that volunteers would normally go into. Now, this can be paid positions, but for the most part, they've been volunteer. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about what that job is from an overview and then talk about some of the best characteristics a volunteer would have, right? Everyone's created differently, so you're going to basically be able to put them into different categories. So let's start with the silent and registration process. Let's talk about the silent preparation portion that a volunteer can do. So this will take place prior to the event happening, and they're going to be grabbing your tangible silent auction items and displaying them in some way, shape, or form. Right. So you're going to want somebody that is attention to detail, maybe an interior designer or somebody
very organized.
Yeah. But you also want them to be able to dress it up a little bit as well.
You're talking items and then a bid sheet with each item.
Correct. And
you put 8 to 10 on each 6-foot table.
Right.
And you display them nicely. You make them look nice. Be sure there's a pen there.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, right down to the detail.
Exactly.
And see, from my perspective, that's a no-brainer. So, to me, I think it kind of almost starts with in your silent. If you're going to be having volunteers for your silent, just putting you can actually just make it very simple so that this person doesn't get inundated with things. Oh, what do you mean? I got to display them. I got to do that. Chances are you're not going to have your volunteers display. I mean, they get pretty.
Well,
some of those organizations get very. No, I want it to look like that, and so. The ones that I'm doing are the ones that I'm doing are very much like that.
And this is a hard topic to tackle because there's so many different portions of the silent, right? There's the preparation part. Gather tangibles, display them properly. Then, once those auction items are all bid on that night, you have to have somebody go in and close those items. Those are your silent auction closers. So somebody that is okay with coming in and basically just circling and saying, nope, sorry, you didn't win, is essentially what they're going to be doing. So somebody that's a little bit focused and able to kind of, let's see, not hurt feelings a little bit.
Get out of the way. We closed.
No.
I've been
my heart, right? So those are our silent closers. And then lastly, the third part of that silent auction is, okay, all of your items have been dedicated to each bidder. Now you have to gather those packages and put them with each bidder number for collection and transportation home. So there's 3 sections there, and those can all be one person. They can be 3 or 4 different people. It's kind of a tough thing to tackle. It could almost be its own episode, to be honest with you.
Sure, it really is its own episode.
There's a lot there, but more often than not, that becomes a volunteer type position. What we normally see is over the years, someone gets really good at it, and then all of a sudden they're the chief volunteer and they're delegating people as the years go on.
That was be my suggestion. Next was going to be find a person who can be the lead of that division, because silent does encompass so many things.
Yeah, and at times we actually have teams go out and help organize that. So our check-in, check-out teams are actually hired event individuals that dedicate those volunteer jobs. So if you're interested, you know where to reach us. Volunteer bid spotters. Let's take that one.
I'll take that one. Volunteer bid spotters is, I think that is, those are people that, number one, figure out how many you're going to have. If you're going to have 600 people in your room, you're going to need a handful of bid spotters. If you got a room of 200 or less, you may not even need volunteer bid spotters, but find out, and that person could be pulled off of. A volunteer bid spotter could also be doing raffles early in the night, right? So that's a person that could do a double duty. So volunteer bid spotters are simple. They need to be somebody that's energetic and maybe not afraid to go up to people and visit with people. More outgoing than normal for the bid spotters. I'm also going to take the recorders and the runners since I am a lead bid spotter and you guys are auctioneers.
Okay.
So
what's next? You've done the bid spotters.
Done the bid spotters.
Recorders? Is that where
recorders? Yep.
Okay.
You know what? Recorders. You need people that are pretty attention to detail. You need to explain to them that their job tonight is probably the most important job that we have there tonight because we have to keep record of what money is raised. So also encourage them not to be drinking any wine. If you see one of your recorders drinking wine or having a cocktail, you kind of have to understand that needs to be pre-visited with them, and that you say, when you say, hey, Bill, look, I'm going to need you to be a recorder, and then we're going to get you wine after the show if that's okay with you, but we kind of need everybody not drinking. It's okay when you're asking your volunteers to do a project for you what the parameters are, and that's one of them. So they need to be attention to detail. You need to be able to tell them not to be afraid of.
And listeners,
yes,
not
they gotta
talkers.
be listeners. They don't need to, ask each other what's going on. But basically, attention to details, I think, really is the main one. And when they do their fund to need, raise the paddle, or fund to cure, whatever it is, they just need to be educated on the importance of that. And typically, if we bring a team on site, we will also help you with your volunteers. We will train your volunteers in these things. Mm-hmm. But that's what your recorders are looking like.
Yeah, definitely. And in terms of runners, essentially what they're doing is they're taking those sheets from the recorders, running them out to the winning bidder and having them signed. So in my opinion, the best runners are ones that are not like daydreaming, right? Because they're actually sitting there by the table watching where that item is sold and then running to that table. I've been in the city, even just this last weekend, we were selling an item and one of the runners comes up to me and says, hey, can you name the table numbers to the winning bidders that you're selling to?
Nope.
Sure. Did it for like one item and never did it again. I'm like, ooh, sorry about that. Really? So those runners needed to be able to focus and stay focused on where those items are selling.
That's another thing that the volunteer bid spotters can be very helpful.
Very helpful.
Is you can train them to go stand next to the winning bidder.
Oh, there you go.
And then the runners just go to the bid spotters.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to cover one right now that everyone poo-poos, especially when they hear about it, but coat check. People are going to hear, oh, I'm going to charge a coat check. This is easy. I can do this. You would be surprised.
It's not.
How difficult coat check is. It is very difficult.
I've never done it.
Oh, boy. It is tough. You have to have a system in place early, and you actually have to think through how you're going to give these jackets back to people. Because I've seen so many people come in and be like, oh, yeah, totally. And they just put it on the rack. And then when John comes back and says, here's my ticket, and you can't figure out where that ticket goes, serious issues.
Yeah.
Like, have you seen, like, at the end of the night when people are just guessing on coats?
Oh, I've never. I don't.
Wait, that one's mine. Move that other one out of the way.
I would not be a proponent of coat check because of that very reason.
Oh boy, yeah.
I mean, it's the line at coat check is sometimes longer than it is at checkout.
Yeah. Yeah,
who'd have thought?
So think through that. Grab tickets. One and one need to go together, and you need to be able to see where. Anyway, the last position that we're going to cover is raffle sales, and this one is very essential. Normally lands on a volunteer, and is probably one of the more difficult positions to fill.
Yeah.
Essentially, what you're doing is you're going to ask a volunteer to go around the room of individuals and ask them for donations in exchange for a raffle ticket of some kind. This is where your sales individuals really come in handy. Someone that can talk sales, is comfortable with people, is outgoing, effervescent. the more that they connect with those people, the better off they're going to be. But I find it a very hard position to fill personally.
Yeah.
To get the right one.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, and you know what? You're gonna deal with your pot of volunteers, and you're gonna put the one that's the most outgoing in that, and that also could be a bid spotter person. Those are two of the same personalities. To be honest with you, outgoing, salespeople, talk to people, not be afraid to talk to people, not be afraid to approach people. Raffle sales are tough. I think this kind of launches a little bit into, I don't know if it's. But your volunteers need to be wearing something that shows that they are a volunteer. And a cool thing that you could do is even a sash. And on that sash, it could say right up here, volunteer student in the 2nd grade, or volunteer up here, and then they can fill out their own sash, and it could say, whatever. But that way you understand that those people are volunteers that's got a clipboard in the raffle.
Let me take that and run with it a little bit. So we just covered the different jobs of volunteers.
Should you run so much?
Next, we're going to talk about how to get these people to commit. And I said these people. How to get volunteers to commit to your event, right? And your idea is great because somehow you're signifying, hey, you're on the ABC organization's team.
Right.
What if you tied that in with them committing up front? Ring, ring. Hey, Kelly, I'd like you to volunteer at my event, and if you do come, I'm going to get you a shirt. But you're gonna, what's your shirt size? I'm gonna buy one for you. Right? Is that a way to get them committed up front?
Yeah, I mean that is. Or when you're asking your volunteers, maybe be more aggressive. I mean, I hate to say it, but say again. I don't know why I keep using Bill. That name just keeps popping into my head today.
It's a very common name.
It's a very common name. Bill Smith.
Bill.
Say, hey, Bill, it's Kelly. Yeah, so glad that you're going to be volunteering for us again this year. It's coming up. Can I count on you? Already give them the verbiage that you're counting on them, that you need them, that this isn't a willy-nilly position, right? Yeah, we're going to have all of our volunteers are going to be marked in shirts or sashes, their crowns, their whatever, little wheelie-doos on their head. Something that signifies they're a volunteer. But the fact that you have to ask them and give them specifically what they're going to be doing when you make that initial phone call.
Right. And I think by articulating why their presence is essential is really going to allow them to be there.
Yeah.
Hey, Kelly, I need you there next week. You are going to be leading up the recording of the night. I need to make sure somebody is in charge of making sure all the donations spoken are written down. If you just give a little context to why these people, I did it again, why volunteers should be showing up and supporting, the better off you're going to be.
Agreed.
Because if they feel essential, if they feel like they're doing something for good, they're going to be there. If they feel like they're just there like, oh, I don't know, I'm just a volunteer, it doesn't work.
They're needed.
Yes.
They're going to everybody wants to be needed.
Sure. And recognized.
I mean,
I could do better myself because I think this aspect needs to be added to the script.
Agreed.
Before we even get started. Before we do our introductions. Hey, blah, blah, blah. And also, before we get started, let's thank the volunteers, you guys.
Right.
They're all around the room. You can tell they're wearing the red shirts.
They gave up their night tonight to make our night special.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
They gave up their night tonight to make our night special. Can we write that down?
Yeah, can somebody write that down? Can we record that? Oh, wait.
Okay, boom. I just recorded it.
Boom. Oh, that's right. We're recording.
So that's how you get them committed. So now we're going to talk about what happens when you're on site. And, we have had the opportunity to train a lot of these volunteers when they're on site. And my first things first is always to thank them for being there. Something to allow them stand out is a cool idea. But first things first, thank them for being there and know that they are essential to make the night run. Because I think by inspiring them or instilling in them a sense of pride, they're actually going to take their job seriously. Mm-hmm. We've all been in the scenario where it's like, hey, you're in charge of this. And then they have one too many cocktails. And then before you know it, they're not paying attention by 7:15.
And I think using we and were instead of you and your is helpful, because if you're training your volunteers, you're talking to your volunteers, and all of a sudden you say, we're raising money, these raffles that we're doing, not you're doing the raffles, you're raising money. It puts it a lot on them. And I personally have always felt like volunteers, yes, they're excited to be doing it, But they're nervous. They're nervous that they're going to screw up.
That's true.
And there's nothing to screw up. You're there to help, and every amount that you give is a big deal. But I feel like there's always an edge that they're worried that they're going to mess something up, or are they doing it right? So if you keep things in the we and we're context, it shows that you're in that water with them, and that if we screw up, we are doing it together. And
those are the kind of people that are going to do a really good job.
Yes.
The people that really are worried about making a mistake are probably the ones you want doing the really important stuff.
Yeah.
They're going to put forth the extra effort to make sure they don't make a mistake.
Yeah, and I would always remind your volunteers that they're a representation of that organization that night. And I've heard you do trainings, Kelly, in the past where, you go up to people and say, hey, after they're done bidding, make sure that you go and thank that donor for placing that bid. The thought being they are a representation of the organization.
Yep.
I heard a quote that's kind of stuck with me here the last couple of days, and it goes, how it ends is how it was. And the thought behind that is, if you have a really good day at work, and on hour 7 of an 8-hour workday, you've had a great day, and then from the last hour, you have an accident on site and it ruins your entire day, you will forever remember that day as a bad day. So as it ends is how it was. So with that said, if your volunteers really embrace that thought process, that last thank you can make them think, oh man, that was a really fun night. I want to be there next year. Right? So I think that's something that we really have to instill in these volunteers, is that they are a representation of the organization. What they do while they're at this event is going to be remembered for years and years from donors and staff and whomever is at that event. So try to keep that in mind, try to instill that in them. I know it can be difficult at times, but we wouldn't be able to do it without them.
Don't forget to show your appreciation. When it's all said and done, it's over, they've packed up the last box, you should be the last face that they see, and you should be hugging them and thanking them.
Couldn't have done it without you. Oh my gosh, how helpful. This is amazing. I can't wait to see you next year. We'll look forward to your help next year. All those things. Big thing, feed them, feed them, feed them, feed them.
And then that kind of goes to our last point of conversation today, and it's at the end of the event. Thank them. We couldn't have done it without you. Thank you so much for allowing this to happen. We wouldn't have been able to record all those bids had you not been a part of it. Those kind of conversations. We want them to feel appreciated, so they come back. Is something to keep in mind. Now, you had a pretty good idea in regards to following up with thank yous.
I think that it goes with. I've been trying to get a podcast on thank yous
next week.
With these two boys
next week
for a month,
and this is a good
now,
segue
and
into
I would
it.
just like you to know that next week we are doing one on thank yous.
Thank you, Kelly.
Yeah,
thank
whatever.
You for the idea, Kelly. Thank you.
My podcast, thank you, is a great idea. So we'll just a little snippet of that is that if you were to thank your volunteers. Night of, obviously, send them home with a popcorn and M&Ms or something that says, thank you. But also 6 months down the road, hey, our event's coming up. We wanted to remind you that it was coming. So that's another way to do it. I think thank yous are super important. I really, really do. I think they generate so much future money.
Yes, I think so as well. So a big
and you guys will know about that when we do a podcast on that these boys have been putting off.
So in regards to the volunteers, thank them. Let them know they're appreciated. Let them know that their responsibility is important, and communicate with them early to get them committed, and also continue to thank them when the event is passed and you get into those off months. We still want them to be a part of it.
Keep them in the loop for sure.
Next episode is on thank yous.
What do we cover next
week? A thank you.
Yes.
And of course, thank you, the listener, the watcher, you at home. Thank you for being with us. If you want more of us, you can follow us on Facebook. There's a video version of this cast on our YouTube page. If you're watching there, please subscribe, like, and comment if you'd be so kind. Or you can always leave us a review on your podcatcher of choice. 5 stars, please.
Call us if you need help. We're here to help. Hire us. We got you, boo.
Our intro music, Brighter Days Ahead by Mixard. Thank you. And we appreciate you joining us this week. Hope we brought you some value to your fundraising strategy. If you know someone who can benefit from this content, please share. And if you want to specifically connect with us and cover anything in regards to your event, shoot us an email. Our email address is
Shelby, you talk a lot. I love it. You're so good at this.
At
StokesAuctionGroup.com.
Thank you for being with us. I want to thank specifically Kelly for being with us today. Next week, thank yous.
Thank yous. Hey, you guys, enjoy your Memorial Day weekend. Go out and be creative.
Oh, yes. Be courageous.
And let's raise some money.
Woo! Have a good weekend.
Enjoy.
We're out.
We out.
Bye.